Hello, welcome to this lesson. I'm Jason with CodeLearner.com. Here we're going to really get down into some fundamental ideas of Java, and we're going to learn about variables. And specifically, we're going to learn about integer variables, which is the most common variable. You're going to use it constantly over and over. So first I want to let you know and kind of drill in what a variable is. It's just a memory location that you define where you can change values. So you may have for instance, a database of addresses or a listing of addresses. Well, the phone number or the address number assigned to that house is going to be something you're going to store, and so that might be a variable. If that person moves to a different house, then you might change the value of that address, so that will be overriding that location over and over again. So we use variables all the time. Anytime we're storing something where we think we're going to update it in the future, it may change in the future. So an integer is a type of variable, and an integer is a whole number. And you can see that in Java, integers are very large, between negative 2,147,483,648 all the way up to this very, very large number right here. So integers in Java are very, very, very large. So you can essentially think of them as positive and negative whole numbers. Now we're going to get into this in just a second, but you must declare variables before you use them. So if you want to have a variable named first name, let's say you're writing an address book, if you want to have a variable named first name, then you're going to need to declare it, and then you can assign a value to it. If you want to create a variable for the age of someone, then you need to declare that, tell Java that you want to use that variable, then you can use it. So let's jump right in and talk about this. So if I want to declare an integer, then I need to, notice I'm inside the main method, so everything in here is where our program is going to execute. If I want to declare an integer, I need to type the keywords int, hit a space, and notice that Eclipse is color coding that to tell you you're declaring a variable. Let's say that the variable, let's just be clever and say I'm going to call it variable 1. Then I need to terminate that with a semicolon, right? So that is variable 1. Alright, so now we have declared the variable. When we say we must declare variables, that is what this is doing. It's telling Java, create an integer variable and name it variable 1. I could name this anything I want. I could name it Christopher Columbus or Jason Gibson. I can name it anything I want. So we have declared that variable. Now that we've declared it, we need to put a value into that variable. So you assign a value to that. So you just do this just like from math class. So you say variable 1 equals 9 and hit a semicolon. Now notice that we've declared the variable up here, and then we've put the value of the variable equal to 9 down below. Alright, so now we're doing well so far. Let me go ahead and save it. Now at this point, if we run the program, not much is going to happen. No output is going to happen. All we've done is create a variable and stored a value of the number 9 into that variable, but we've output nothing. So the program doesn't seem to do anything, although it is actually creating that variable for us. So now let's go ahead and learn how to output these variables to the screen, because in many cases you might want to display output. So you will use our friendly system.out.println like this, and then inside here, maybe I want to type in the value of variable 1 is, and I'll put a colon. Okay, so this is just text. The value of variable 1 is. Everything between the quotes, that's just text. So we know that that's going to print. If I hit run, then we get that on the console. What we need to do is tell Java to put the value over here after the colon. So the way you do that is you put a plus sign like this. You can put a space if you want, separate it, plus sign, and then you type variable 1 like that. This is telling Java, print this text, and then the plus sign means get ready, there's going to be a variable coming, right? This is not in quotations. This is just the name of a valid variable that we have already defined, we've already created, and it's going to put that value for us. So let's save it, and let's go ahead and run it. You can see the value of variable 1 is 9, right? Is 9. If you want a space after the colon, and you might want to hit a space right there, you can save it and run it again. You can see you have a space there. So get used to this idea because you're doing text. The plus sign after the quotations, you close your quotes off. The plus sign says here comes a variable, and when you put a variable name into the print line statement, it's going to take the value of that variable and it's going to print it out for us. All right, so that's the most basic way to use variables in Java. Now let's go ahead and create another couple of variables and see how we can augment this further. Let's go ahead on the next line and say, let's create another integer, and we will call it variable 2 there. And let's go ahead and create, in fact, we don't want spaces in our variable names. We need to keep everything together. Let's do integer variable 2, and let's do integer variable 3, like this. Okay, and in fact, you see, we can define it like this, no problem, but you know what you can do in Java is you can go back and you can put a comma and you can say variable 3, like that. So now we've declared an integer variable. We have two different names separated by a comma. Notice we have to have our semicolon at the end of the line. Now we can compile this, no problem, and we can run it. We see the output there. Now we've created all three of these variables. Now we need to do an assignment. So let's say variable 2 is equal to 24, semicolon, that terminates that line. Variable 3 is equal to 16, semicolon, that terminates that line. All right, and let's go down below this print line statement. We're already going to get a carriage return, a line feed, or I should say basically a line termination there going on to the next line. So let's go ahead and do system.out print line like this, and now we will say variable 2 is, then we need to put we'll put a space there, then we'll put a plus sign, and we'll tell it to output variable 2. Then we put another plus sign, and we can say variable, now we can say variable 3 is, and outside this quote we put a plus variable 3. Like this. Notice what's happening. We say quotation mark variable 2 is with a space, then we put the value of variable 2. Variable 3 is, we'll put a space here, here. Now let's go ahead and, just to be clever, we'll put a comma here. So let's go ahead and hit save, and let's run this guy and see what happens. Now you can see what happens here. It's going to take everything you do literally. It put the comma after the word is, and then it put a space because we had it there, and it just doesn't quite look formatted. What we want to do is take this colon out, comma out rather, put a comma here like this. Now let's go ahead and save this and see what that looks like. Variable 2 is 24, comma, variable 3 is 16, and that's exactly what we have lined up on the screen. So the point of this lesson is to teach you a couple of things. You can create these integers, you can assign values to them, you can output them to the screen by using the plus thing, and you can also, we can go down here, system.out.print, like this. You don't have to put any text at all. If I just want to output variable 3, see, there's no text here at all. I've just put it inside of the print statement. I can go ahead and hit save. I can go ahead and run that guy. And this is a good example. You see here Eclipse is warning me there's an error. And of course, the most common error in Java is that you forget a semicolon. So let me hit that again. And we can see that we have the first sentence with our values, the second sentence with our value, and the third output to the console is just the value of variable 3 with no text, because all we did was pass the name of the variable inside of the print function. Now there's one final thing I want to point out to you before we close this section out, and that is, it's a nice feature of Eclipse. Notice if I hover over variable 3 here and give it a single click and wait a second, I'm going to highlight variable 3, and notice that Eclipse is also highlighting variable 3 up here, it's highlighting variable 3 over here, and it's also highlighting it over here. Many times when you're writing code, you're going to want to know where all of your variables are. Like, what if you had to make a change for some reason? What if you wanted to rename this variable? Let's call it variable 10 or something. Well, it would be nice to, instead of going find and replace throughout your code or just scanning the code, I can just click on variable 2, for instance, and it will highlight. Now, it's not highlighting everything here, but it is highlighting the variables. Notice it's not highlighting variable 1 here because that's part of this string, but anywhere where the variable is off by itself, either as a declaration, as an assignment, or here in a print statement, it's going to highlight that for you. So that about does it for this lesson. Very, very important lesson. Just notice that variables are used constantly in programming. You're constantly going to be giving values to them, printing them out, comparing them, and so on. A type of variable is called an integer, very large range of values. You declare them, then you make assignments, and you can use them in your print statements as we have here. Go on to the exercises, practice those exercises, and get proficient with variables in Java.